Hello.
Hey.
Hello, everybody.
And welcome back. And as you see, we're not on the couch, but we are with my parents. So we told you last week that we were going to have some special guests. And so we invited my parents along just to have a conversation with them, to kind of hear our love story from their perspective and to ask them some other questions. So welcome to the Brewingtons YouTube episode.
Yeah, so
Thank
excited.
you.
So, let's let them introduce themselves.
Sure.
Right on.
Okay. Well, I am Cassandra Curtis, and this is my husband, Michael Curtis, our daughter, Jessica, which is our firstborn, and our new son-in-law, Randy. We have another daughter as well. Her name is Ashley. She is a school teacher in Clayton County. She's not with us tonight. Michael and I have been married for a long time. As a matter of fact, we were just saying yesterday was our anniversary of actually meeting each other, and that was 37 years ago.
Wow.
So it's been a long time. Yeah. And we have two beautiful daughters out of it. Let's see, what else you want to know about us?
We've been married 35 years.
Well, I'm sorry, we've been married 35 years.
But y'all have known each other for 37 years.
35 years.
Most of them.
Get out with the bed.
Get out of the bed, we keep moving.
Oh, man. Okay, great. So, anything else you guys want to tell us?
No, we just appreciate the opportunity to be part of these episodes and supporting your young black love.
Absolutely. So, we'll just dive into it. Our first question would be for you guys to tell our story from your perspective.
I guess I'm starting again. Let's see. So I knew of Brandon as the music director at our church. And I knew that Jessica and Brandon and two other of their friends hung out together. They were friends. They did a lot together. They hung out together. And so one day, I just noticed that Jessica all of a sudden started talking a lot about Brandon. And when she talked about him, she would have this giggle, this giggle and happiness and, lighten up and all this. And so I could tell that something was developing there with her and Brandon. And I don't remember if I even asked her about it, but she did eventually started talking to me and telling me, what was going on with them. Asking different things and, of course, me giving her advice. And we had plenty of conversations. And so and I don't know how long it was that they were actually, or when they actually started dating, or how long they were dating before we actually got to have our first real encounter with Brandon, which was at our anniversary party. We had an anniversary dinner that was very quaint and intimate with just our family and two other of our friends. And Jessica invited Brandon. And so, although we didn't get to talk one-on-one and interact with Brandon, I just noticed that he did fit in very well with our family and got along pretty good and just didn't seem to have any problem, as if he had been around for a while, But I think that they had a very nice period of dating. I can't remember some of the things that you all did because I don't know if you shared all that with me. But they were very active, I noticed. They did a lot of things. I would see the pictures. She, show me pictures and things. So they did a lot of fun things together. And they seemed to have really enjoyed each other. And there was always a lot of laughter between the two of them and that I could see from their pictures as well. So, want to add something?
Well, my story is a little different. Unlike you, I wasn't really brought into the loop, so I didn't have we weren't having conversations. She wasn't asking me for advice and what I thought, and to really let me know that she was interested in Brandon or thinking about getting involved with Brandon and understanding our past history. I understand why you would lean towards your mother and kind of keep me in the dark. So with that, once I did find out about it, again, my first thought was I would have never put you two together. It just and Brandon, I've known you and known of you for 10 years in leadership at the church, and watched you from afar. Understood a little bit about you from what I would hear, as an honorable man, a good person, and committed. And so after I kind of just went through, hey, I never would have put them together. I was like, well, I'm kind of glad that God, brought that together, and let the universe, talk and bring you guys to get together to, take a look at what could be. And so from that, I was kind of excited for you, and for Brandon, and what brings us to today.
I don't think that we saw ourselves together either.
No, it was just one of those things that kind of happened. It was like, okay, all right, well, cool, let's go with it. And it worked out. So thank God.
You both have that entertainment in common.
Yeah,
I think that works for you.
So, what were your expectations from me when it came to dating? From your perspective, and from a mom's perspective, and from a dad's perspective, what were those expectations?
Well, when you were younger, of course, we probably had stricter or more expectations than when you were older at the time that you started, dating Brandon. But I've always wanted you to be a respectable young lady, honorable. I wanted you to have a good reputation that you earned, that you did things that you thought were right, and did them the right way. That you honored your curfews that we gave you, of which we could when you lived here at home. And that you would be, I can't think of the word, but because I've already said respectable young adult, but that you would be independent, yet you would be able to, when the time came, you'd be able to be submissive to a husband as well. So we wanted you to be able to take care of yourself, to be strong and be able to take care of yourself if need be, but then also be able to be submissive to a spouse if you had that one day, as well. So, and in order to get to that point, then, you have to kind of be respectable and watch your reputation and all those different things as you are growing up to get to the point where you are now, to get to a young adult.
So, I agree with everything that your mother just said, and so not to belabor that, but I think all along, my intent on raising daughters, because I thought I had a wife that was a phenomenal role model for what a woman should be. I wanted you to understand your self-worth, and what God had put in you, and the value of you, and kind of beat that into you and your sister to understand your worth. And there was earlier times where some of your decisions that you would make as it related to relationships led me to believe you didn't know your worth, because the person that you were looking at engaging wasn't worthy of you. And so I was looking for, once you understood your worth, then I was looking for the person that would be courting you, or coming to you, seeking you, searching you. There's someone that would be worthy of you. And along the way, just make sure that you understood that you have to be someone that a man is attracted to, not just physically, but socially and spiritually and financially and mentally, and all those. I used to get a hard time when you guys on your hair and your nails, and and your attitude, like, hey, men ain't gonna put up with that. I used to tell my son-in-law they ain't gonna put up with that. And I didn't even know who you were, because I was trying to make sure that I wanted them to be, to Kasama's point, what they needed to be in that relationship as a loving, supportive, submissive wife, queen for the right king.
So, as parents, what were some things that you guys prayed for in a son-in-law? or in your future son-in-laws?
Of course, we wanted you to know God and to have a relationship, for them to know God and have a relationship with Him, because we would be looking for you to lead your family in that manner. Um, to be a strong provider for Jessica and Ashley. And we wanted them to, everybody says love unconditionally, but we know that it takes a little bit more than love in order for a relationship to work. So we want you to have all those characteristics of a good, godly man. And I think I also prayed that you would cherish Jessica, because it was one of the prayers that I always had when I was praying for a husband. You know, that's what I wanted my husband to do. I wanted him to cherish me, you know, not just love me, but to cherish me. And so that is one of the things that I also prayed that Jessica's spouse would do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think mine's very similar. As a father, you understand that you're raising daughters that one day you hope will be a bride, right? You hope will be a bride. The whole plan is to be a bride one day.
Absolutely.
And in that, you know, hopefully the path was into get married to a male groom, right?
Right.
And
right.
so, you know, once I know we were on that track, I thank the Lord. But then began to pray that my son-in-laws would be first the ones that God had sent and prepared for my daughters.
Mm-hmm.
I think the big thing is that they would love my daughters unconditionally, and that they would be ready to lead, you know, as a man. You know, years and years, and I still have a lot of letters and cards that my daughters would give me on Father's Day. And they would always say, you know, to the greatest dad in the world, you know, one day I want my husband, you know, to be like you. And so in that, I would be like, yo, what is me? You know, and it was, you know, to Kasana's point, you know, to provide, to love, to cherish, just to lead. You know, I just think that's so important, just to lead, take responsibility, and you know, lead courageously, and not be afraid to make decisions because they, you know, don't like decisions you make if Lord is leading you to do that. You know, and really having kind of a, you know, being a strong man in themselves. I remember when Jessica turned 20, I remember thinking to myself, and she was in college in Valdosta, I was like, wow, she's the same age just as Cassandra was when I married her.
Mm-hmm.
And to look at Jessica at 20 would be, there's no way that I want to give a hand to a man for anything because she wasn't ready.
Right.
It was just crazy. And I remember calling your father right after your birthday. I said, Dad, can I ask you a question? He said, yeah. And I said, you know, Jessica just turned 20. And that's how old Cassandra was when we got married. And I asked you for her hand at 19.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to know, when you said yes to me, how did you know I was the one? Because I'm trying to figure, just in case some joker, you know, I got to run off a few, but if... and he just told me there was just something that he saw in me.
Mm.
You know, it wasn't no revelation, there wasn't no lightning bolts. It was just a feeling that he had, and he had watched me. And so, you know, I said, okay. He said, you'll just know. You'll just have a good feeling about that. And so, again, when that happened, that was brought to me, and that, hey, we're together. I didn't know it was going to lead to marriage or anything, but I felt comfortable, you know, before the marriage conversation he talked about. Like, hey, you know, I think he's a good dude. You know, I think he could potentially be the one, you know, and so with that, just again, making sure that the person that they would choose, my prayers would be that that God, all along I was praying, was preparing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm saying, you know, 5-10 years ago, Lord, you know, prepare my son-in-laws to be the type of husband you need him to be. So I didn't know you were going to be that 10 years ago or 5 years ago or last year or whatever. But that was my prayer. And praying for Jess. Lord, make sure that you make my daughter the queen that she needs to be, and give her the right heart, and give her the right mind, and the right, you know, to be able to be that. And so that's been kind of the constant prayers for decades that he was doing that.
So what was the experience? Like you mentioned talking to Grandpa about the experience you had when you went and asked for mom's hand in marriage. What was the experience like for you guys when Brandon made the phone call to you to have the conversation? And how did that go?
Well, I'll leave this one.
Only because Brandon called him, right?
No.
Why?
Well, because I got a text and it said, Mr. Curtis, basically I'm paraphrasing, I have something I'd like to talk to you, Mrs. Curtis, about. Is there a time if we can meet, kind of paraphrasing it. And so just by the tone of it and just having the sermon, I was like, So because you haven't talked to me about what y'all got going on, I don't know what y'all got going on. But this one right here, I got a feeling that she's holding back information. And so I said, hey, Brandon, Jessica talked to you anything about Brandon or, her and him? Well, they kind of da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I said, well, I got to text him this joke. He want to meet us. I think this may be what we're talking about.
But I think I call myself. I call myself preparing here. So, there were several times that I would come to you and say, what if Brandon were to, or they were thinking about marriage? What would you say? Or how would you? I mean, there was a couple of times I came to you and said that. It was kind of to get you to start thinking about that.
Yeah, but see, because you had information I didn't have.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't know where we at in the road, how far we were down the road. But just the tone of it, I'm like, well, what else would he be talking to me about?
Right.
What else would he be talking to me about? He didn't just ask me, hey, Miss Curtis, how's your family? Right? So when I talked to Mom and then she told me what she said, I was like, well, I think this is it. Right?
And I agree.
And she agreed, yeah, I think this is it. Right? So that's when I was brought to 100 watts after I talked to her. I've been in the dark all before that. Not that I have a problem with that.
So how did it go?
I think this question's for her.
I wasn't there, so I don't know. How did it go?
She didn't know. What's funny is she still asks to this day what we talked about that day, and I never told her.
Yeah. The G15 classified. I mean, at a high level, he, it was kind of sweet, because
he was a little nervous.
And he was a little nervous. And so he went all the way around the farm. Right? And I'm still waiting for him just to ask. And so he kind of implied that he was asking, but without really saying, so Mr. and Miss Curtis, I would like to have you. So then your mother ended up saying, so are you going to ask? And he said, oh, yeah. I'd like to ask you, da-da-da-da. So we hadn't spoken to you, so that's when we had said, it was kind of conditional because I think you were traveling, you about to go out of town, you had things you had to work on, and
it was rushed. That's what it was. Yeah, I had to come a little earlier than I expected.
Right.
Yeah,
so we were trying to give a conditional release for the future conversation to have with you, which we never had because that didn't happen. But from that, I felt comfortable, and we just shared, how important you were to us, what our expectations were of you, and that, we were excited, and that. He said he loved you. That was a good sign.
Yeah, and then I said, we do too.
We do.
I do.
Number 2. You know, we all on the same page. But yeah, it was nice, and it kind of took me back to when I had to ask her dad, for her hand, because it ain't an easy thing to do.
It's not.
You just can't walk up in there like.
They're your parents, so
yeah, they are.
They know you like the longest, like they know. So
you sure you know what you get, like I think so. Okay, no returns.
I don't recall that being said.
I think I do.
Yeah,
I think I do.
One way trip.
So enough about our love story. We want to hear about your love story. How did you guys meet?
Okay, I'm gonna start this one too. Okay, so how did we meet? As Michael said, I was 18 when we met. It was a long time ago. But I was in school, a community college, and I had a friend, Teresa, and she and her husband introduced Michael and I. They didn't tell me this was going on. We were at school one day in the cafeteria trying to eat lunch and do work, and she told me somebody's coming to meet you. And I'm like, well, who's coming to meet me, and why? Why are they coming to meet me? But anyway, her husband had brought Michael to meet me. And if I remember correctly, they didn't really know each other that well. They just kind of worked in the same area and, spoke on occasion. But as far as knowing each other, they didn't really know each other. And her husband didn't really know me, other than what I guess she may have told him. I had met him one time, and that was when we were taking some dinner to him because he had to work late that night. He was in the military. And this is Cassandra, this is Bruce. I think that's about all we had. We didn't really get to talk. And so what made him think that Michael, someone that he didn't know very well, and me, someone he didn't know at all, could be a match.
Right.
But anyway, I'm at lunch this day, and here they come in uniform to meet me. And so before Michael tells his side, because I know he's going to say, I'm going to go ahead and say, coming to meet me in uniform that first day just didn't really, I don't think it did for me what he thought it was going to do. But anyway, I wasn't really looking for, like I said, I was 18. I was trying to go to school. And so I really wasn't looking for a mate at that point. And so I may have seemed like I wasn't showing a lot of interest. And I was in the middle of doing homework. And so anyway, I did, before he left, invite him to go to church with us. We were having Men's Day at my church that coming Sunday. And so I invited him to come, thinking, okay, he's not going to really come. That's what I thought. But then that Sunday came, and he did. He came to church. I was serving that day. I think he said I was ushering. And so I didn't get to sit with him. So he sat with my sister, Cheryl. And then I got to talk to him after service. So he wanted to take me home after service, but I didn't let him because I had, come to church with my parents, and I felt I needed to go back home with my parents. And so I didn't let him take me. And so he kept coming. And I think after he came the initial time, he came every Sunday thereafter, I think. Just about every Sunday thereafter. And I don't know if he ever joined that church before we moved on, but he came. He kept coming. And each time he would come in the beginning, of course, he didn't, he would ask me after service, can he take me home? And I said again, I came with my parents, and it took him a minute to get it. And he finally got it. And so he said, well, let me pick you up next Sunday. And so he picked me up for church next Sunday. We went to church. And then afterwards, he was going to take me home. And then we stopped and got ice cream or something. We stopped on the way. But that started our dating. And we had a little bump along the way, which I'm sure he's going to share with you about. But our dating period was very sweet. And we dated for a while until we had this little hiccup. And then after the hiccup, we did manage to get back together. And so he did ask me to marry him. And like he told you about that experience. And then we proceeded on. Everything was nice and smooth during our dating until the hiccup. And then once we got together, until we were engaged. And then once we got engaged, it seemed like we would always be bumping heads and have conflict. And so even though we had planned a year engagement, we didn't make it a year. We had to up it up a little bit before we hurt each other. And so we got married a little bit. We got engaged in October, and then we got married that July versus waiting until October to get married.
You didn't tell me that I called off the engagement.
No. Yes, he did. He called off the engagement one time, and because of those conflicts and things that we had. Mm-hmm. But we worked through that.
Another hiccup.
I said we had 2 hiccups.
How we met was how she said, with 2 friends brought us together. And when I did meet, before I agreed to meet her, I did go see because I'm not really in blind dates and stuff of that nature. I wanted to see what I was, getting into. And Cassandra worked at a mall, Cross Street Mall in Belk's department store at the Monet Jewelry Counter. And so I went there
At 18.
At 18, I went there and I located her, and I just sit there and I just watched her for about 25 minutes. And the immediate thing that came to me is she was very beautiful, but she was really classy and stylish, and smiled, very friendly. And I just watched her interact with different people. And again, she was easy on the eyes and seemed very pleasant, very graceful. And so I remember leaving, saying, "Okay, I like to meet her." But this didn't happen overnight because I was actually seeing somebody at the time, and had been dating her for about 8 months. And she decided that she wanted to kind of date other people for a minute to see if we were going to be real. And that was kind of the situation that allowed me to have a little break in our relationship. And then Bruce re-engaged me right around the time that happened and said, "Hey man, you really need to meet this girl that he'd been wanting me to meet you for months. And so you must have left a pretty good impression on him." And so I said, "Hey, set it up." And so that's when he told me where you worked. And I went out there and kind of, took a look at you for a minute, and then came back, and then I met you that day in school. My initial impression once I met her was her attitude was a little funky. That she was kind of bougie, had her nose kind of stuck up in the air. I understood that she didn't know I was coming, but I thought she could be a little more pleasant. But she had, and which I didn't really know at the time, I didn't know she was a daughter of four daughters, that her dad was in the Air Force. And I wasn't really prevalent at that time around the attitude around soldiers, and it was a military base. And in her family, they, you don't date soldiers, right? We had a bad rap already.
Right.
And I think that's where she was kind of coming from. And she said it. She said, "I don't date soldiers." And here I am in uniform. I'm working that day, so I'm in my work uniform. Not like I'm dressing up, put on a tux. This is what I work in.
Right.
And so she got her a little feeling there for a second, but I told her, "Hey, I don't date soldiers either, and I think we got something in common. Maybe we can work from there." And she said, she invited me to her men's day. Like I said, she didn't think I would come, but I was brought up in the church, and I can do church. So I figured, hey, I'll see you. Give me the address. 118 Johnson Street, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28330. Okay, I'll be there. I remember that. And she got me just sashayed off, went to the class, and then Bruce, I remember riding back to base, said, "What do you think?" I said, "Man, I think she kind of bougie, man. She got a little attitude, And he said, "No, just she this and that and the other." And so I ended up going to church and that Sunday, and really, service was great and everything. And so the other friend I was with, she wanted to be back, come and get back with me. And now at this point, I met Cassandra, and I know that she's kind of special, and so I'm kind of conflicted a little bit, but I feel for this other girl because I've been with her for months and Cassandra for days, and eventually they send me a letter and they say I have to make a choice because I can't date both of them. And at that particular point, I prayed about it, thought about it, and didn't want to hurt anybody. And Cassandra was really an unknown mystery that I was really intrigued with this other girl I really had feelings for. And so I chose the other girl and had a conversation with her, and okay, we're good. Then I had to go back to Cassandra and say, "Hey, I got the letter. I made my choice, and it's not you." And so she pleasantly said, "Okay, fine. Time for you to go." Walked me to the door. and enter stage left. Very, because she was old. She was young, but old spirit, old school, very mature, very, don't get all emotional and upset about nothing. Just kind of matter of fact. You made your choice. We can't be friends, so don't ask that. It's time for you to go. And so I left, and I was kind of, taken back somewhat, but I could understand the position that I put her in. And at that night, I felt that I made the right choice. But for the next 2 months, I dating this other girl, and I'm with her, and I cannot get this girl right here out of my mind. She's occupied my mind, occupied my heart. And then, when you make a bad decision, it just kind of stays in your stomach, and you just can't let it go. And I'm getting up, and I'm like, so I start telling my boys, "Hey man, I think I might have made the wrong choice."
Wow.
And they were like, "Well, Daryl and Gene, they were my boys, and they knew Cassandra, and they was, I don't think she's gonna take you back. And you gonna mess around and lose both of these girls, and I said I just can't. And by the time I took the other one, she'd been home to me, up in Ohio, met my family, and they loved her, and it was just a lot, and she told me she loved me for the first time, and I think she knew when she told me that she loved me, and I didn't say I love you too, that there was something going on, but I really couldn't do it in good faith. And long story short, I told her, and then we, had to break up for obvious reasons. And so then I was without her, but then the very next day I got that morning, I told Jinx, I said, hey, because Jinx actually followed me down there to take her home, I got to go try to get this one. And so I called her back, and she didn't really want to talk to me, and I just said, give me 5 minutes. I went over her house, we met at a restaurant, and I just said, hey, I made the wrong choice. I should have chose you. I chose the other person. That wasn't the right choice. And so it's me and you now. And she just kind of looked at me, and said, I remember her saying, just like that. That's what I'm supposed to do. And yes, that's all I know to tell you. And she got up and left, and I still didn't know whether she went to work. And I called her a couple days later. We went out to eat, I think, and we really never talked about that anymore. And after that point, a few months later, because in October we got engaged.
Wow.
Because that was July-ish. Because your birthday was July 9th. June 9th. And so July-ish, first part of August, first part of July we got together. Because it was after the 4th. And then we got engaged in October and got married the following July. Wow. So it was pretty quick.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, so we actually started dating technically, June, and then a little hiccup, July. We got engaged, and I called off the engagement for just a second. Because I just didn't, she had the wrong attitude and just doing some stuff. I ain't living with this. I ain't doing this. But thank goodness for your mother, Ethel Lee Lane Pop. She told her, you get in that car, you go over to that man's house, and you apologize, and you tell him that you want to be his wife. Right? Because I was like, I ain't taking all this. And so I said, it's over. And I left and went to my little apartment, and it was raining, and never get the doorbell ring open, and she's sitting there. And I looked at her and said, why are you here? And she said, just looked at me and said, why are you here? She didn't say anything. I said, you only here because your mother sent you. And she said, what difference does it make?
Oh, no.
I didn't make all the difference in the world. What are you talking about? What difference does it make?
So I want to know, how does he know what my mother said?
I already knew. Because I knew her enough to know you would not be sitting at my door in the rain, ring the doorbell if Ethel Lee Lane had not told her. Right?
Was he right?
What? Did my mother tell me?
Yeah.
Well, we talked.
She basically said, go over there and get your pack of food, right? So she said, you gonna let me in? And then so
I didn't say it like that.
yeah, you did. And so I let her in, and we went from engagement off to a sooner date in that conversation. And so so that's it. And we've been pushing it, holding it together with duct tape and sugar glue ever since.
That's good.
Very good.
Drop the mic. Well, we want to thank you all for joining us this episode, and we will see you next time.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace. From the Curtises.
And the boy tons.
At the Curtises.